And when a new president starts their job in the United States, many people watch the first 100 days very closely. This tradition started a long time ago with President Franklin D. Roosevelt, also known as FDR. During his first 100 days, FDR worked very fast with the government to make many new laws. This was a difficult time called the Great Depression, and people needed help quickly. Because FDR did so much at the start, people began to see the first 100 days as a very important time. It shows how the new president plans to lead the country. It can show the president's style and what they think is most important. This review looks at the first 100 days of the Trump administration. When President Trump started, many reports said his team planned to work very quickly. Some people expected many changes and new actions right from the beginning. The start of a presidency is often a busy time. New leaders want to show they are taking action on their promises. They often sign papers called executive orders to make changes quickly. Sometimes, they also work with the government called Congress to pass new laws. People watch to see what new plans are made and how the country might change. This period can set the direction for the next 4 years. The next chapters will look at what happened during this busy starting period for the Trump administration. We will explore the actions taken, the news about money and business, and how this time compares to the past. 2. New plans begin. The new administration started work very quickly. Many reports said it was moving fast from the first day. One of the first things people noticed was the number of executive orders the president signed. Executive orders are like rules or instructions from the president to government departments. They tell these departments how to do things or what to focus on. The president signed many executive orders in the first weeks and months. Some people compared this to past presidents. For example, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed 99 executive orders in his first 100 days. Reports showed that President Trump signed about 100 executive orders even before his first 100 days finished. This was a very high number compared to many other presidents. These early orders covered different important areas. Some orders were about changing rules for businesses. The idea was to have fewer rules. Other orders were about trade with other countries. For example, the United States stopped being part of a big trade agreement called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Some executive orders were also about immigration and border security. These early actions showed the new government's main plans and priorities. The new administration also needed to choose people for important jobs. These people lead the big government departments. Key appointments were made quickly. For example, Rex Tillerson became the Secretary of State, responsible for relationships with other countries. James Mattis was chosen as the Secretary of Defense, leading the military. Jeff Sessions became the Attorney General, the country's top lawyer. Stephen M. Mnuchin was appointed as the Secretary of the Treasury, managing the country's money. These leaders started to work on the new plans in their departments. The beginning of the administration was a time of many changes and new directions for the government. 3. Money news. When a new president starts, many people watch the economy and money news very closely. The first 100 days of the Trump administration brought some important money news. Some experts watched the financial markets. They saw a new pattern. After some big government announcements, stock prices often went down. The value of bonds also went down. The American dollar became weaker compared to money from other countries. At the same time, the price of gold went up. One expert called this the American capital flight trade. This idea means that people outside America were less happy to put their money in the country. Also, some Americans wanted to move their money to other countries. This pattern was not usual for the United States. It was more common in countries having economic problems. One big topic was tariffs. Tariffs are taxes on goods that come from other countries. The government announced new tariffs. This news made the markets nervous. Stock prices, bonds, and the dollar fell when tariffs were announced. Later, the government paused some tariffs for 90 days to talk with other countries. There was also talk about very high tariffs on goods from China. The government said they were talking with China, but China said no talks were happening. These quick changes made it hard for businesses to plan. They did not know how much things would cost. Some big companies said they could not be sure about their future profits because of the tariff uncertainty. There were also discussions about the leader of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States. It is very important for the economy. When there was talk about possibly changing the leader, the markets worried about this too. During these first 100 days, people's opinions about the economy changed. Polls showed that fewer people approved of how the president was handling the economy. One poll by Fox News showed that only 38% of people approved of his work on the economy. Even fewer people, only 33%, approved of his handling of prices and tariffs. For the first time in many years, most Americans said their own money situation was getting worse. People were worried about rising prices, called inflation. They felt uncertain about the future of the economy. 4. Learning from the past. Why do people talk about the first 100 days of a president? This idea started a long time ago with President Franklin D. Roosevelt, known as FDR. He became president in 1933 when America had very big money problems called the Great Depression. People needed help fast. FDR promised action. In his first 100 days, he worked hard with the leaders in Congress. Together, they passed 15 important new laws to help people. These laws were part of his plan called the New Deal. FDR also talked to people directly using the radio. These talks were called fireside chats. He explained his plans and helped people feel calmer about the banks and the country's problems. Because FDR did so much in his first 100 days, people started watching every new president's first 100 days very closely. They look at what laws are passed and what actions the president takes. It became a way to measure how active and successful a new president is at the beginning. For example, FDR signed 99 executive orders in his first 100 days. Some reports said President Trump signed about 100 executive orders even before his first 100 days finished. This shows a different style, using executive orders more than working with Congress on many new laws right away. Sometimes, The first 100 days are important because of big events that happen. John F. Kennedy, or JFK, had a difficult time early in his presidency. There was a failed plan to invade Cuba at the Bay of Pigs. It did not go well, but people watched how JFK handled it. He went on television and told the American people that he was responsible for the failure. People respected him for taking responsibility. His approval rating actually went up. So the first 100 days show more than just new laws. They show a president's style. They show how a president acts during difficult times, both at home and in the world. History experts often say that a president's first 100 days can give clues about the rest of their time in office. A strong start might mean a successful presidency, but a difficult start does not always mean failure. Looking back helps us understand how important these first steps can be. 5. New rules for health. During the first 100 days, there was much talk about health rules. The Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, was a big topic. The FDA is the part of the government that checks if food and medicines are safe for people. The new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., said the FDA was too close to the big drug companies. He said these companies had too much power over the FDA's decisions. He called the FDA a sock puppet for these companies. To explain his point, Secretary Kennedy talked about the opioid problem. Opioids are strong medicines for pain. One famous opioid medicine is OxyContin, made by a company called Purdue Pharma. Many years ago, the FDA approved OxyContin. Some experts say the FDA did not follow its own rules. They say Purdue Pharma pushed the FDA to approve the medicine for wide use, even when it was not proven safe for long-term use. Doctors started giving these strong pain medicines too often. This led to a very serious problem called the opioid crisis. Many people became addicted to these drugs. Since 1999, hundreds of thousands of Americans have died from opioid overdoses. Experts say this problem cost the country a huge amount of money, maybe $2.7 trillion in 2023 alone. This history shows why careful rules for medicine safety are so important. There was a debate about how the FDA approves new medicines. Some people want medicines approved faster, especially for serious sicknesses like AIDS or cancer. In the past, pressure to approve drugs quickly led to changes at the FDA. Sometimes, new drugs were approved even when studies were not complete or clear. Some experts, like Dr. Andrew Kolodny, worry that the FDA still makes mistakes. They say the FDA sometimes approves drugs that are not safe or do not work well. Other experts, like Edwin Thompson, who makes medicines, agree. He said the problem is not the law itself, but that the FDA does not always follow the law. He believes if the FDA followed the rules strictly, we would have better, safer medicines and maybe even lower costs. The administration talked about making changes at the FDA to fix these problems and make sure medicines are safe and truly help people. 6. Big companies' ideas. Some big companies think a lot about the future. They want to be successful for a long time. One idea is called stakeholder capitalism. This means companies think about everyone connected to their business, not just about making money. They think about their workers, their customers, and the places where they work. The Mars Company is a good example. It started more than 100 years ago in 1911. It is a family company. The Mars family has strong ideas called principles. These principles are quality, responsibility, efficiency, mutuality, and freedom. The family wrote these down in the 1980s. These ideas help the company make decisions. They help Mars work well with its workers and the government. The family believes these principles help the company be successful and earn trust. Even when times change, the basic ideas stay the same. Enel is another big company. It is a power company from Italy. A few years ago, the company had some problems. Its leader, Francesco Stares, looked at how the world was changing. He saw that new energy like solar power was important for the future. He decided Enel needed to focus on this. He also remembered the company's basic purpose, to be useful to people and society. He helped everyone in the company remember this simple idea. This new focus helped Enel grow again. They started working faster and doing many smaller projects instead of only very large ones. But sometimes, big companies have problems. Boeing is an example. It was known for making very good airplanes. People said it lost its focus on engineering, which was its most important skill. This shows that companies need to stay true to what makes them strong. IBM is another company that has been successful for a long time, more than 100 years. It has stayed successful by always thinking about new ideas and innovation. These examples show different ways companies work. Many successful businesses have clear ideas or a purpose. They think about more than just short-term money. They look at the future and change when they need to. They must adapt to new situations in the economy and politics to keep doing well over many years. 7. Arguments and changes. The first 100 days of the new administration were a time of some arguments. The government had disagreements with different groups and places. There were also big changes happening inside some government departments. One big argument was with Harvard University. The government questioned Harvard about its money and its rules or policies. Some people, like a past president of Harvard, worried about the government's actions. They felt the government was not following the usual ways of dealing with universities. Harvard even went to court because of this argument. People thought this problem was not just about Harvard. It could affect other schools too. It raised questions about how much power the government should have over universities and their freedom. There were reports of major changes inside the government as well. One example was the Department of Justice, in the part that works on civil rights. This part of the government was started many years ago to protect people's rights, like the right to vote. But during these first 100 days, reports said things were changing fast. Many experienced workers who had been there for a long time were moved to different jobs or left. One person called it a complete bloodbath. The work of the Civil Rights Division also seemed to change. It started to focus more on new orders from the president. Some reports said these orders focused on things like merit-based opportunity and protecting groups like white Christians instead of the older focus on minority groups. This was seen as a big shift from how this part of the government worked before, even during the first Trump administration. Some workers felt they were asked to do the opposite of their old jobs. Another place with changes and problems was the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS. This is the part of the government that collects taxes from people and companies. There were many changes in who was leading the IRS. Several people held the top job in just a few months. There were reports of arguments inside the administration about who should be the boss. One report mentioned a loud argument between Elon Musk and the Treasury Secretary about this. People worried that the government was trying to control the IRS too much. There were concerns about the government telling the IRS what to do in specific tax cases or taking away tax-free status from groups it disagreed with. Some worried that these actions, and maybe letting go of many IRS workers, could make the tax system weaker. If people thought the IRS was not fair or strong, maybe fewer people would pay their taxes correctly. This could cost the country a lot of money and damage the tax system, which needs people to follow the rules willingly. These arguments with places like Harvard and the big changes inside government parts like the Department of Justice and the IRS showed a time of disagreement. It also showed that the new administration was quickly changing how some parts of the government worked and what they focused on during its first 100 days. 8. The first 100 days end. The first 100 days of the Trump administration came to an end. This time was very busy and moved quickly. Many new plans started. The president signed a large number of executive orders. Some reports said he signed more orders in this time than President Franklin D. Roosevelt did in his first 100 days. During this period, the administration focused on several key areas. There were talks about changing healthcare rules, especially concerning the Food and Drug Administration, FDA. New ideas about trade, like putting tariffs on goods from other countries, were announced. These announcements caused changes in the markets. There were also changes happening inside government parts like the Department of Justice. Money markets reacted to the news and actions. Sometimes stocks, bonds, and the value of the dollar went down at the same time. Some experts, like Larry Summers from Harvard, called this a sign that people were less sure about putting money into American assets. Discussions about tariffs and who would lead the Federal Reserve also made markets change. The fast pace and the number of changes led to a lot of public discussion. News reports and polls during these 100 days showed changes in how people felt. Polls showed that the number of people who approved of the president's job went down. Approval for how the economy was being handled was lower too. Some polls showed that many Americans felt their own money situation was getting worse. Conflicts between the administration and other groups, like universities, were also reported. Changes in government jobs and rules were common topics in the news. This early period showed the administration's plan to make big changes quickly. It set the stage for what would happen next. What event from these first 100 days do you remember the most?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.